So the transfer window has come to a crashing halt, but let's take a look at 5 players who won't look back on that summer with any great deal of fondness whatsoever. Riyad Mahrez. Oh, Riyad. It's been over 3 months since Riyad Mahrez not only handed in a transfer request at Leicester City about 20 minutes after the end of the season, but also released a public goodbye to both the club and the fans. If he'd done all this a year earlier, after scoring 18 goals for a title-winning side, then he would probably have been snapped up within a week. But apparently not many teams want to fork out big money for someone who spent the last 9 months sleepwalking around the pitch. Having scored 6 league goals last season, as Leicester finished 12th, he probably shouldn't be too surprised that the top dogs chose to do their shopping elsewhere. However, there was one European side who seemed determined to land the Algerian: Roma. The Italian saw 3 bids worth up to £32 million rejected by a determined Leicester, with the Foxes reportedly valuing their want-away winger at £50 million. You might think this is insane, but I must remind you that this is the same transfer window where Paulinho went for £35 million. So Mahrez ended up beginning the season with Leicester and played out of his skin during the opening games while the window was still open. There's a surprise, only to be released from the Algerian squad on deadline day in order to clinch a surprise move to Manchester United. Right? No, wrong. I don't know where Mahrez flew off to, but I just hope he hadn't been taking transfer advice from Peter Odemwingie. Philippe Coutinho. I hope Philippe Coutinho isn't going to be sitting by his phone until January waiting for Barcelona to give him another call back. If you ever needed to see an example of a sportsman's professionalism crumble into pure desperation within a matter of weeks, just take a note of Coutinho's summer. Back in July, Barcelona were delivered a blow, with Neymar deciding that he'd had enough of labouring in Lionel Messi's shadow. So with the Catalan giants' attentions turning to Coutinho, the Liverpool maestro sought for an amicable departure from the Reds, but Liverpool turned down Barcelona's £71.5 million bid, a hefty fee, but fair enough, they could probably get more for a man who'd signed a 5-year contract in January. It would have been worrying for Coutinho though, when they rejected £90 million with 2 weeks of the transfer window left, and then £118 million a week later. The Brazilian, who has only ever hit double digits in a Premier League season once, and whose trophy cabinet has not been touched in 7 years, grew increasingly agitated by his club's refusal to sell, downing tools as the season started, pointing to a back injury that miraculously healed through the power of getting on a plane to Jeddah for international duty last week. According to Neymar, Coutinho is going through a moment of anguish, disappointment and sadness. Do me a favour. Diego Costa. You'd be hard pushed to find a footballer who had a worse summer than Diego Costa. It takes something special for a man to score 20 goals as his team romps to the title and then ends up banished to the wilderness months later. Having had a bust-up with Antonio Conte in January, the makeshift Spaniard was unceremoniously dumped by his boss at the start of the summer via text message. A cutthroat way to end things, sure, but despite looking like a 50-year-old man, Costa took the news like a hormonal teenage girl and has claimed that he will always keep the text message stored in his phone. It starts with a text, the next will be sneaking into Conte's room to cut off a lock of his hair. Just let it go, Diego. Determined to get his move back to Atletico Madrid, probably not the smartest idea since the club can't register players until January and you have a World Cup place to fight for, despite not actually being Spanish. Costa refused to return to West London all summer, going full Carlos Tevez. As it happens, Atletico and Chelsea never came to an agreement, leaving a terribly unhappy Costa stuck at a club he wants nothing to do with, and to show the feelings mutual, he's just been omitted from their Champions League squad. Alexis Sanchez. One of the big transfer stories of the summer surrounded Alexis Sanchez and his will-he-won't-he reunion with Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. To be fair though, the Chilean never once submitted a transfer request, didn't kick up a fuss, publicly at least, but considering he still won't put pen to paper on a new contract at the Emirates, and his body language on the pitch shows all the signs of a man looking for the nearest exit, well, you can draw your own conclusions. Surprise, surprise, Arsenal have not started the season well. Having snatched a last gasp win against Leicester City on the opening day, they've gone down to both Stoke and Liverpool, the last in unapologetically terrible fashion. So Man City tried to relieve the Chileans' nightmare, with 2 bids worth more than £50 million on deadline day, even Raheem Sterling was linked with a swap deal. But the transfer never happened, and at 28 years of age, in the prime of his career, Sanchez will be travelling to Bati Borisov and Red Star Belgrade soon. How fun for him. Ross Barkley. If Ross Barkley wasn't injured, he would no longer be an Everton player. Probably. Ronald Koeman has already said many times that Barkley's career is finished at Goodison Park after the prodigy rejected a new £100,000 a week contract in April. However, having picked up a lengthy injury in pre-season, the England international was put in the unfortunate and awkward position of trying to flaunt himself to potential suitors despite being crocked until Christmas. Reportedly keen on a switch to Spurs, it was Chelsea who almost did the deal, with Barkley changing his mind at the last minute to storm out and leave the Blues looking for Danny Drinkwater's number. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.